recognize this technique?
Hello everyone, I'm KarboBalloon, and today we're going to talk about TimeSplitters 3. I was a pretty big fan of this game back when it released, and I spent many hours playing it with friends. The reason I really want to talk about this game is because it did a lot of interesting things for its time, and I want to go back and see what I can learn from it. TimeSplitters Future Perfect came out in a rather transitional time for the first-person shooter genre. In 2005, we already had the first two Halo games, and console shooter popularity was reaching new heights with online capabilities. TimeSplitters is a strange beast because it has more in common with shooters like GoldenEye and Perfect Dark than anything of that current generation. This is a good thing in many ways, but it also comes with a price. That price is how it plays. The control of TimeSplitters feels more archaic than most shooters from that era. The best way I can describe it is having less control and feeling less precise with your shots. Their cursor could be aimed right at the head of the enemy, but the shot will still not hit them in the head. On the flip side, you can aim your sniper at their body and get a headshot. This, coupled with very little auto-aim, can make being precise almost impossible. Everything just feels a bit more rigid. By modern standards, this is pretty terrible, but it never feels like it gets in the way all that much, since the game focuses on chaotic, fast-paced combat rather than methodical execution. That being said, it doesn't play terribly, it's passable, it's just a little jarring to go back after playing modern shooters. TimeSplitters features a wide array of weapons, taking advantage of its time travel motif. Some weapons do feel like alternate skins of other weapons, but the aesthetic change alone is a nice change between missions. And weapons often have alternate abilities or firing modes that offer more variety to the gunplay. From a purely gameplay standpoint, TimeSplitters isn't anything stand out, but it's really everything else where it truly shines. The story of TimeSplitters 3 has you take the role of Sergeant Cortez as he travels through time to prevent the TimeSplitters, a super evil time-traveling alien race, from ever existing. The overarching story between missions isn't really all that engaging or interesting, but the characters and story in each time period is what makes the campaign worth it. Each mission grants the game the ability to move through many genres and pulls them off surprisingly well. A highlight is the two missions in the Haunted Mansion. When I played this when it first came out, I was surprised by how the atmosphere really got to me during a late-night game session. Even today, it holds up well with its haunting soundtrack and creepy aesthetics. Throughout all the missions, there are little mini-games or interactions the player can play with. I'm going to use the hard level as an example again. In the lab section, there's a zombie in a cage, and off to the side is a computer. Using the computer, you can do all sorts of tests on the zombie, ranging from setting on fire to, my favorite, shrinking it. And if you play with the size enough, you can make it explode. Then the spy level also has a remote control cat you can drive around, which plays into some of the challenge missions you can do in the game as well. This constant change of theme and genre keeps things fresh between levels, and does well to spice up what could have been an average shooter campaign. Due to the tonal shifts, each level stands out from the rest and can keep players engaged simply by surprising them by what comes next. I'm going to take a moment and appreciate how great Cortez is as a character. He seriously has the best lines. It's especially great when you go through these time holes and Cortez meets up with different versions of himself. The game even uses these instances to provide an AI partner for yourself. A notable example is in the eugenics level. The final room has you fight off waves of robots while trying to solve puzzles on a computer. It starts by having you solve the puzzle while the AI defends you. The next step has you defending the AI while the robots attack. This cycle happens 2 times, having you do each position twice, with increased difficulty between both times. This playfulness creates a memorable encounter where the player gets to participate in all parts of the mission without getting bored. All in all, it's nice to experience a shooter that goes for a more comedic style, especially considering the shooter landscape these days is full of military shooters that take themselves super seriously. Multiplayer is really the main attraction here. It features all the options you would expect from any shooter of its era. You can adjust the amount of bots, the teams, the weapon set, the map, and the game type. 2 things really make the multiplayer in TimeSplitters 3 stand out: the game modes and the playable characters. The game boasts 150 different characters to play as, each with their own stats and personality. Some characters are just retextures of others, and they share a lot of animations, but the sheer amount of them adds an extra layer to the choice in multiplayer. Picking a character becomes an event when playing couch co-op because everyone wants to play their favorite characters, and despite having no customization, offers a sense of personal agency to the game. The game modes offered range from your normal team deathmatch and capture the flag to more interesting options. Vampire adds a timer to each player's life that can only be reset upon death and killing other players. When the timer runs out, you die, and when you run out of lives, you lose. This works really well in a fast-paced shooter since the game's objective lies in hand with the flow of the game. It encourages the player to stay in the fight even when it may not be advantageous to them, and rewards their skill by continuing their life. Most of the game types fill in with this line of reasoning. They only offer to enhance the player's experience and not work against it. This adds much variety, allowing the player to bounce between different game types without getting tired of any of them. The multiplayer is a stellar experience that makes up a good chunk of the time playing the game. League mode is an extension of the multiplayer, but geared more towards solo play. It offers 3 tiers of difficulty in a wide array of multiplayer scenarios. Each mission is essentially a custom rule set coupled with a bit of story to give it flavor. An example of this is one of the missions has you as the only human versus a team of zombie deer with snipers only on map. The goal is to come in first, and you can either get bronze, silver, gold, or platinum based on your score. The missions differ in game modes ranging from Team Deathmatch to Shrink, a game mode where the player's character size scales based on what place they are in, with first place being the largest and last place being the smallest. I'm a fan of League Mode since it takes the wide variety of multiplayer configurations and hands them to the player to enjoy without having them to bother to make it themselves, and on top of it, gives them rankings to allow for replayability. It works within the confines of the game and creates more content for the player to explore. The story snippets before each mission, while small, offer a bit of humor to spice up each encounter, adding to the charm of this mode. That, coupled with the character unlocks gained from completing the missions with higher scores, rewards the players for doing better and ultimately keeps them coming back for more, especially for those who want to 100% complete the game. Outside the story mode, TimeSplitters features an interesting set of challenges. The structure is much similar to the League mode, except each bracket features a set of minigames that either use the mechanics from the story mode or their own unique ones. Without listing through all of them, a few examples are cat racing, which uses the cat controls from story mode, zombie survival, which is just surviving against waves of undead enemy types, and smashing glass, which is running around a level destroying all the breakables with a given item. Like with League mode, they each have different rankings that reward the player for getting a higher score. Challenge mode is a bit of a mixed bag. Some of the mini-games can be enjoyable with their challenge and cleverness, but the ones that rely on the shooting mechanics tend to fall flat. Since the controls have not aged well and subsequent first-person shooters improved upon them, these modes feel unsatisfying. The zombie waves are just worse versions of any wave survival mode, and even some of the more unique ones feel hampered by the controls, such as the one when the player controls two mounted guns defending against waves of enemies, the catch being that the screen is split in two and each control stick controls one of the different turrets on the opposing walls. It could have been an exercise in dexterity, but the aiming feels so off the challenge is no longer about being ambidextrous, but even hitting anything with one turret. The cat control challenge is my favorite because while the controls take getting used to, they provide an intentional challenge for the player to overcome. It is rewarding to master them because the challenge is built around controlling the cat's slipperiness, which isn't something that comes with any of the other minigames. The conclusion here is challenge mode is an opportunity squandered by poor control. Most of the minigames here would have been fun had it not felt like I was battling with the aiming most of the time, especially when the minigame called for being precise, such as with the glass destroying game. It is a shame because with the variety of games, it could have been something much more special. If a modern shooter could look back at this and make it right by simply fixing the control, we could have something that would work in a modern context. TimeSplitters 3 is gamey in the best way possible. It doesn't waste too much time trying to contextualize really anything in the game. Instead, it embraces the absurdity of it, and I think it becomes a better game overall because of it. The game achieves what many modern shooters don't, and that's offering a very wide variety of single-player content, while also nailing the multiplayer that keeps players coming back for more. I really hope this franchise makes a return, because with more iteration on the design and polished shooting mechanics, this game could breathe some old new life into the shooter genre. Thanks for watching. You can check out some of my other videos that I've linked here. I got this one on Half-Life 2, and this one on this cool Japanese game that I played. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and cool!